Well, greetings YouTube. On this podcast, we get to talk about a new movie for once, instead of doing reviews, which would be GI Joe Retaliation. Well, more specifically, the reaction to the trailer of GI Joe Retaliation. And first things first, they renamed it. For those of you who have not been paying attention, GI Joe 2 was originally called Cobra Strikes, which I kind of get the ideal behind it. It's kind of, harkening back to, Empire Strikes Back. But it doesn't roll off the tongue very well. GI Joe Retaliation, it sounds better to say. Although you can kind of see from this trailer what they mean by where they're going for the whole Empire Strikes Back feel. This looks to be the dark chapter. Looks like the plot picks up a little while after. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar, spoiler warning. Although this looks like one of those spoilers where if you go see this movie, it's ending of the previous movie is spoiled. So, in the first minute. But yes, Zartan was left as President of the United States. That basically, the Cobra's plan actually worked. The main point of their plan was actually to infiltrate the White House with a sleeper agent, in this case Zartan, not sleeper agent, but was to infiltrate the White House, and everything else was just meant to give more power to the president once he was in and under Cobra's control. And lo and behold, Zartan appears to still be loyal to Cobra, and has basically eliminates the Joes. In the first 5 minutes, we see first few minutes of this trailer, you see a bunch of military helicopters approach what looks like a operation. Then they massacre pretty much the entire GI Joe team, save 3 people. At least what it looks like. Dwayne Johnson's Roadblock, Duke, and Lady J, paged by new cast member Adriana Palicki. I probably did that wrong. Actually, not just new cast member, I think I talked about this on a previous video, but they really went in and gutted everybody from the previous film. Yes, they realized it made money, but they realized there was a lot of problems. And they got rid of Summers. I didn't have that many problems with the first film. I wish it was better, and they way overused CGI, but that's Mark Summers for you. You can't let him play with CGI. He's one of those older directors that just he abuses the hell out of CGI. I guess he's too used to the old style, so once he got his hands on CGI, he's like George Lucas. You have to take the CGI away from him. Surprisingly, younger directors tend not to use the CGI as much. They tend to not like using it. It's the younger directors and Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan could abuse CGI like hell, but he doesn't. And hopefully this guy doesn't either. It doesn't look like he does. Well, we'll get into all that in a second. But, yeah, they really gutted everyone out of the script. Everyone. Except for the only people that were good. I like this. They gutted it, but they were very careful in their gutting in preserving a few things. One, they kept Channing Tatum as Duke, and he played a pretty decent Duke. I have a feeling now that they also got, mind you, they not only got rid of Summers, they also got rid of the writers. And if you can get rid of the writers and the directors, and I think even the producers aren't even coming back for this one, that will so change the tone. If you can get rid of a director, that's one thing. The same writers are there, you'll have a lot of the crap. That was... I can't even name all the films where they thought they would make an improvement by just getting rid of one element. If you can get rid of normally 2 or 3, it'll dramatically change a film. And it looks like they brought in people that know the GI Joe lore now and respect the hell out of it and really want to make a real GI Joe film. Mark Summers actually said in the commentary on the GI Joe DVD that he was completely unfamiliar with G.I. Joe vs. Cobra, the concept, the 80s toy line and cartoon series. He had no idea it existed when they tapped him to do it. So he had absolutely no loyalty, no love for the franchise. Here they've got John Chu, or John M. Chu, however you want to say his name, Who younger guy? I'm pretty sure he seems to be an actual fan of the series. He seems to be like a guy that grew up with the series. And that's great because you could already tell he respects the hell out of this. You can tell that new writers really liked the original source material and brought a lot of those elements back in. You could tell that the visual effects people or the design people, the visual designs or the art department, they brought in people that loved the original series that got what GI Joe versus Cobra was. Because I'm going to get into the design in a second because I do have a few screen captures from the trailer. But yeah, they really, going back to the cast on who they kept. They kept Channing Tatum. He played okay, and he was the main lead, and he does provide a nice continuity. I kind of like how they did this. Is instead of just revamping it, they're like, okay, we'll just make another movie that's really good, and we'll keep the original plot. Everyone's seen the first movie. If we make a good movie with that as the origin, fine. It's almost like they made the bad prequel that that didn't get the original film first. I'm hoping that's the case, and this is this weird thing. Who else did they get rid of? Apparently, Arnold Vosloo will be returning. Guy who played Zartan. He's great in everything he's in. I've yet to see a bad performance from him. So I'm happy they kept him. Ray Parks as Snake Eyes is back. Hell yeah! Jonathan Pryce is back as the U.S. president. He's good as a villain role. I mean, a lot of people trash Tomorrow Never Dies. It might just be nostalgic because it was the first Bond film I saw in theaters, but I like Jonathan Pryce as his, starting wars for ratings villain. And that's really it. No one else is back. I don't know who's playing Cobra Commander. I can't see if they're just gonna bring in a voice. I know it can't be the original voice actor. I mean, really, if you see later on, I'm gonna show you the quick shot they showed of Cobra Commander. He's wearing the masks, so really you can just bring in a voice actor, do like they did with Darth Vader, and James Earl Jones didn't wear the outfit. He just recorded his voice for it. So I don't know if they'll bring Joe. His voice wasn't that bad, especially the unmuffled when he was the doctor. It sounded pretty fucking evil. I don't know if they'll have him coming into it. I don't know if they'll have the guy from the GI Joe Renegade series. His voice was rather sidious and evil and sounded fucking badass. They can't bring back the original guy, unfortunately, because he's dead. But with the new cast, the new crew, we have, Dwayne Johnson looks pretty good. He looks like he's having fun in this film. He fits this universe perfect as Roadblock. Ariana Palicki, she seems fine in this. I liked her little look of Lady J. She doesn't look quite like the Lady J from the series. She's wearing a bit of a jacket, but I mean, we only saw a few minutes worth. We don't know if we saw even the final battle scene, if they released any of that yet. Let alone, I know there's like more fights with hovercraft, which we'll get into. Oh, I totally forgot. Storm Shadow. Byung-Hun Lee is returning as Storm Shadow as well. Now this is also, I skipped ahead and totally forgot about this guy. But Byung-Hun Lee, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm bad with Korean names. I'm sorry. But hey, at least I know that's Korean and not Japanese. So give me credit there. He is returning, and a lot of people were like, wait, he died in the film. If you're expecting anyone to return and have like the Hollywood BS their back, it was Storm Shadow. You only saw him like cut a little bit, and he fell into the ice water. And yeah, most people would not be able to survive that, but Hollywood, that's pretty survivable. Not to mention, even Mark Summers had already thought of an idea that he was going to be injected. If you listen to the commentary on the first GI Joe movie, he said he would probably come back because he would probably have some nanites in him, and the nanites would keep him, would probably heal him a bit. It takes some time, but they would heal him, and they would also be able to generate heat to keep him alive in the ice. So they had already, in the first film, thought of a way for him to come back. And if you listen to the commentary and you see him back, it's not a surprise at all. And I think everyone was expecting Storm. You can't kill Storm Shadow off. I mean, he is one of those. He actually is one of the few characters, really, with Snake Eyes that have a very interesting story, a very complex history, and it looks like they're really going to get into that. They're going to have Jinx in this one. I'm not sure if she's joining the team as an actual Joe or she's going to. What her story is. You can do a lot of things, because we do know there are fucking ninjas in this movie. More than just the two from last time. They brought the fucking red ninjas. In the trailer, there's a wonderful scene where they're on a... I don't know what wonderful scene, but there's a scene where they're rappelling on the Alps, and a group of red ninjas show up, take out the swords, Jinx and Snake Eyes start fighting them. And that's what I'm talking about, where you know they respect the source material, where they have red ninjas. I forget I think they were just called Cobra Ninjas in the, at least the original toy was. I remember, I think I had it. So, that's an example of what I was saying right there. You can look and you can see that these guys got what they first got, know the source material. And some people have complained about the CGI. I mean, they are jumping around in the Alps with sword fighting. I expect a little CGI, but you can tell if Mark Summers did it, the entire thing would be CGI. It'd be really poor CGI. This one's different in that, yeah, there's parts that are CGI, but a decent amount of it is live action. You can kind of tell that it's not completely all CGI, and the CGI is of higher quality when they do cut to the CGI. Then Mark Summers is very low standard for his CG. If it basically looks somewhat acceptable, he just gives it a green stamp. The action looks very intense. Looks like there's a lot of explosions, and there's just a fucking shit ton of action. And that's why I was actually happy when I saw our new director, John Chu, which I skipped over really quickly about him. Another thing that people were really worried about is if you look at his filmography, all the other films he's done, they're all musicals, like pop musical stuff. He's done Step Up, Justin Bieber, Never Say Never, the LXD, the Legion of Extraordinary Dancers, the TV series, Step Up 3D, When the Kids Are Away, Silent Beats. He's done a lot of these musical things. And a lot of people are like, oh no, he's going to make it a horrible, pop music thing. I don't think so. If you also look deeper into his filmography, he's also been an actor in, like, Super Cop 2. And you can kind of tell, looking a bit into this guy, that he actually is a big action movie fan. And it looks like his career, when you're starting to direct, if you get offered a film, especially one that's going to have an actual studio fucking release, you take it. And it looks like he did a decent job. I haven't seen any of these films, so I can't tell how good the directing is, but it looks like he was able to do these really well. He probably was able to get this stuff done efficiently, and so they kept on bringing him back. And then, hey, it's paid off. He put out several, I guess, good music films, and they reward him with what looks like his actual passion, which is action films. And really, and I think I said this before in a previous video, but the technical skills necessary to make a decent dance sequence are the same skills that you need to do a good action scene. It means he's got a very good eye for editing, telling a story that's crazy stuff's going on, but yet still showing it. So I have a feeling that you're actually going to see those music kind of movies influence in this, but in a good way. I really want to be worried. I'm more happy that they got a guy like this, because I have a feeling the action's going to look really good. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. But enough beating around the bush. I should get into the few pictures I have. Starting with this one here. Alright, first off, right there, smack dab in the center, Cobra Commander. He's wearing the silver mask. They didn't go with the whole handkerchief over the head. I can see why. That's a hard one to actually pull off as intimidating in live action. And I kind of always like the more silver mask too. It was a little bit more mysterious, and it goes with what we've established for this character, that he has a hard time breathing. To his left there, or to our left, you see Jonathan Pryce there again as Zartan's Cobra Commander, or Cobra, agent in the White House, the president himself. And to the right, Ray Stevenson, the Punisher, is playing Firefly. The only thing I kind of don't like with this Firefly is that his mask is. I mean, that was always kind of his thing. He didn't want people to see his face, and Ray Stevenson there is showing his face a lot. Especially in a movie where you have Ray Parks extremely willing to. We don't see Ray Parks' face at any time during this. Even Storm Shadow, the guy who plays Storm Shadow, he covers his face quite often. When there's plenty of scenes where he actually covers his face a lot. He's not worried about that. I kind of hate it when certain actors are. I must show my face. Everybody, look like Viggo Mortensen. Not Viggo Mortensen. Who am I thinking of? Oh, Hugo Weaving in V for Vendetta. The dude got so much cred for not showing his face. Just wearing a mask the entire film. But I digress on that point. Actually, if you watch a trailer, it looks like Roadblock and Firefly are going to really hate each other and beat each other up a lot, which is kind of good because Ray Stevenson is a pretty big guy. The other thing I was talking about with loyalty to the original, if you look to both sides of the main characters there, you see the new Cobra Troopers. And I did say that I kind of did like the design of the Neo Vipers in the new one. It was a rather nice update. They have big, heavy infantry guys with really thick. I mean, you can kind of see the intimidation with those guys. But you can see here the loyalty to the original look. They're wearing the helmets. They've got the balaclavas covering up most of their face. They're wearing blue uniforms too, which is nice. And I like how they kind of kept the update. Instead of just wearing solid blue uniforms like they did in the 80s, we'll make it blue camouflage, a blue urban camouflage look. Which, surprisingly, people probably say, oh, that's impractical. A lot of militaries, especially paramilitary forces, actually do use the blue camo. So it's not actually that unthinkable. The only thing they really kind of added is they're wearing, obviously they're wearing ballistic vests and black helmets, but it complements the look rather well. And if you look to the far left of this picture, you actually can see the Cobra logo, which is the other thing. I mean, in the previous movie, we saw like one Cobra logo in the entire movie. This one, they're fucking draping the White House in Cobra flags at this one scene. Moving on, the next one we see here is, if I can pull it up. Storm Shadow. I kind of wanted to point this out as well. If you look behind Storm Shadow, something I caught when I was. Really, this is another example of loyalty to the original, really the figures. That other faceless minion behind him, that looks exactly like the original fucking Neo Vipers. If you look at the Neo Viper toys and such, they have that look to them. I don't know what these guys are. Him wearing all the white, but it shows another one of that look. That really loyal look, or at least you can tell that the people really looked at the toy line and the comics and everything else that came before and made them. Or not made them, but really brought them to the real screen. Obviously, there's some modifications needed in order to make stuff look practical. You can't. Some of the stuff on, let's face it, some of the toys and stuff would look a little silly if you do in real life. But yeah. So we kind of get the plot. Oh yeah, another thing that I was going to talk about was there seems to be some inspiration from GI Joe Renegades, the Hub television series, in that you have a group of Joes who are disavowed and on the run. So it does look like they're taking the latest incarnation of GI Joe and putting it a bit on the to the real, not to the real, but to the big screen. which is nice to see. It's nice to see that they really seem to be looking at the entire franchise. They're not just concentrating on the 80s stuff. They are taking some new elements, which is kind of nice to see. As for predictions from the plot, from what I've seen in this trailer, I can almost guarantee you after Cobra is going to try to take over, probably they're going to be presented in Cobra as this replacement for GI Joe. Oh, we can't trust the Joes now, but we're going to form a new group to help secure us. This new group will be Cobra. Because really in the first movie they just had Mars as kind of a breakaway group. They really didn't have established, or it wasn't publicly really known that there was this new organization called Cobra. As far as probably most people were concerned, it was just Mars Incorporated tried to, nuke the world or nanite bomb the world. Which that might explain the unfurling on the White House. They might go, we need a new military force to protect us. Let me present to you Cobra. And they show the logos. Because, it looks kind of evil, but hey, people in movies are stupid. Especially the public. Especially in movies. It's like the Marvel Universe public. But you can tell that, again... Oh, another cool thing... I know I was about to repeat myself. The another cool thing that I don't have a screenshot of, sorry. I can only... Took me a little finagling with the programs in order to get those. I don't know, my computer's acting funny. They actually have a HISS tank in here. It looks rather interesting design. Actually, there's not a really good solid picture anyway of it. But it's nice to see they're trying to really bring in vehicles, and you can tell that they actually built the damn thing. If this was Mark Summers again, he would just CGI the tank, even though it's kind of a flimsy, really light tank, which you should be able to make. They also have the fucking hovercrafts, like the whales and stuff. They seem to really be having them come back in play. So you can tell that even when it comes to the vehicles, they went back to the toys and to the TV series and actually put those vehicles back in. There's a wonderful shot in there where they kind of show the entire Cobra crew showing up in a hovercraft. And I do know from a couple news reports, they were showing some filming. It looks like it was down in the Everglades, where it looked like there was GI Joe versions of hovercrafts too. So it looks like we'll probably have a hovercraft fight at some point. Of course, the end of the trailer, they show us Bruce Willis. Anyone who was already reading or knew anything about this movie knew he was going to be in. So as soon as they got it, I went, there is one man we can trust. You were like, okay, now they're going to show us Bruce Willis. And they show us him opening fire on a bunch of minions, or a bunch of Cobra. They were all wearing suits. It's probably, presidential retreat. They try to kidnap him or something. But it does look really good. And I rambled on for 23 minutes. But, for those of you who kind of actually soldiering on through this and aren't used to this channel, that's kind of our thing. That's kind of the point. Everyone makes 5-minute videos. What the hell? Why not make a 20-minute video on useless stuff? Hey, again, looks really good. It looks better than the first movie. Really good. And I kind of got what they were trying to do with the first movie, bring it to the whole, old school James Bond spy stuff. And it was fun in that respect. And at the time, I was like, if this would have took to get GI Joe onto the big screen, I could accept it. But it made just enough money for them to realize, if we make a better movie, we'll probably make more money. And they made a better movie, way more loyal. I hope this one doesn't bomb and it becomes one of those where 5 years later or 10 years later, everyone goes like, oh, the second one was so great. Why didn't they do another one? Ton of examples of those type of films that didn't make, not to go off on a tangent at the end here, but yeah, just because something makes a lot of money doesn't mean it's going to be well remembered. Look at the box office receipts for movies in the 90s and go, this was one of the best grossing films that year. Nobody remembers it. You look at some of the bombs from those years, everyone remembers them. Cowboys and Aliens. I guarantee you 10 years from now people are going to still be talking about like Cowboys and Aliens like it was a good film, even though it bombed at the box office. But I'm really digressing at this point. So I hope this movie turns out great. Hopefully we'll get a bit of a longer trailer at some point. Get a little bit more of the plot details. I'm excited for this film though. Signing off for now, guys.